Welcome to this lecture on bacterial reproduction. In this particular lecture, I shall be discussing the different aspects of asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction, as you know, is a phenomenon by which the cell is producing some specific units, which may be spores. Now, they may be endospores, exospores, they may be budding or binary fission. Though sometimes it is said that binary fission is a method of vegetative reproduction, but we will also consider binary fission in this particular lecture. And it may also be in the form of thick-walled spores like cysts, or sometimes thin-walled spores like conidia. So there are different types of spores produced by a bacterial cell during its asexual reproduction. In this particular lecture, I shall be discussing two major aspects. One is the binary fission and the other one is the endospore formation. Binary fission is a simple process by which the bacterial cell is dividing into two. You can see in this slide that during binary fission, the cell undergoes elongation, the DNA is undergoing replication, and it produces a typical 8-like configuration with the appearance of a kink or constriction at the center, followed by the formation of the new cell wall or cell membrane, which is gradually invaginating inwards and dividing the cell into two identical cells, and thereby the process is completed. This is the actual electron microscopic view of the Bacillus licheniformis cell, where you can see that the cross-wall formation has already been started and the DNA has already been replicated. Now, this particular process is also shown by this model, where you can see that before the DNA replication has actually been completed, there is a typical green ring appearing at the center or the equatorial plane. This particular ring is called the FTS Z ring or the Z ring. And this Z ring is actually moving inward. And as it moves inward, it is drawing the membrane or the cell wall on the inner side. And thereby, ultimately, the cell wall is moving inward and the cell is dividing into two daughter cells. This is the actual molecular structure of the FTSZ, where you can see two distinct portions. One is the core region having the alpha helix and the beta barrel structure, and also a long tail with certain alpha helix region. Now, this is the actual model of the FTSZ, where you can see that it is having the core region of 320 amino acid in E. coli, and the long tail, which is another 63 residue of amino acid, which is producing a total of 383 amino acid. And this particular residue, when it is actually producing a long 383 polypeptide chain, it is binding with FTSA and ZPA and min C and D protein. So they have specific role when they are binding to this long tail of the polypeptide. Now, this particular model shows that how this particular Z ring is formed. Now, it was not fixed that whether this particular Z ring will be produced at the center. So, initially there may be different Z spiral produced all along the cell. And as they get matured, they are moving towards the center. So, the Z ring is the ultimate outcome of this Z spiral produced all along the cell. And this particular Z ring includes this FTSZ protein, and accordingly they are being tethered to the membrane by ZPA and FTSA protein. Or this particular tethering protein is actually helping in the fixing of the Z ring to the membrane. And accordingly, there will be another or other set of FTS protein like FTSQ, FTSL, FTSN, FTSB, FTSW, FTSK, which is providing stability to this particular FTSZ ring. And ultimately, the stable ring will produce a typical divisome and the cell will divide. Now, there is another model where we say that this is the nuclear region or nucleoid region, and these are the two areas of mean protein, and this mean protein actually is inhibiting the formation of the Z ring. Similarly, if this is the mean protein in E. coli, there is another counterpart which is called MIP-Z, which is found terminally and it is present in Colobacter. So they are inhibitory to this particular FTSZ protein formation.
Sir, I have a question. Why the inhibitory action of mean is required?
You see this particular slide. This is the Z ring which is stable enough. It's produced by the polymerization of the FTSZ subunit. And in this figure, you can see mean was blocking FTSZ polymerization. So, in this particular cell, on one side of the cell, on one pole, the mean D represented by these green units, followed by mean C, and then followed by mean E. So, these three subunits, when they are polymerizing, they are not allowing the formation of this particular Z ring. And at the next step, they are moving towards the opposite pole, which is called pole switching. So in this pole also, they will polymerize and they will produce another set of mean D and mean C and mean E, and thereby they will actually prevent the formation of this particular Z ring on the other pole. So thereby the Z ring will be produced towards the center, because it was initiated when this particular pole was blocked and it was completed when the other pole was blocked. So naturally they are not moving this way or that way, they are absolutely at the center. Now this particular binary fission has got some specific role. Actually it is explaining the generation time, that is the number of bacterial cells getting doubled in a particular time. So the actual binary fission will control the generation time. Suppose in this particular case it is 30 minutes, that is every time the bacterial population will be doubled after every 30 minutes. And at the same time, this particular growth of the bacterial cell is also determined by this process of binary fission, growth rate. And as you know, there will be the lag phase, there will be the log phase, there will be the stationary phase and the death phase or the reduction phase, which ultimately will bring down the bacterial cell division. So this is also becoming clear when we understand the different bacterial cell division by binary fission. And this generation time will actually control the nature of this particular curve. Sometimes it may be sharp, sometimes it may be broad. It will vary from one bacteria to the other. And there is another unique case where binary fission is becoming asymmetric. It is found in Eupuloptium, and where you actually see that the mother cell is producing two terminal Z ring or two terminal nuclei. And these two terminal nuclei will ultimately then becoming enlarged and producing two large cells, and these two daughter cells will ultimately separate out from the mother cell. So what we have seen here actually this transverse ring is not produced. So as because it is produced in the two terminal end, it is called asymmetric binary fission or asymmetric division, as you can say. Bacterial endospore is a structure which is produced inside the cell. Endospore formation can be of different ways. It can be towards the center, it can be towards the terminal end, it can be towards the lateral end. There are different types of endospore formation. The nature of the endospore is varying with position. It can be terminal in case of Clostridium, it can be central in case of Bacillus, it can be subterminal in case of Bacillus subtilis, or sometimes it is lateral, which is more or less central, but in other species of Bacillus this is seen. And this endospore is actually helping the bacteria to survive for a long time. It may be for millions of years. In fact, it was observed that in a pyramid, in a particular mummy, there were some endospores which were still viable. So just think that particular endospores has survived for 2,000-2,500 years. And even sometimes it can survive for millions of years. So endospore is helping the bacteria to survive. And at the same time, it can survive in low nutrient condition. It can survive in very low nutrient where the food is not adequate. It can survive from UV. It can survive from antibacterial compounds or antibiotics. So in different way, the endospore is protecting the bacteria.
Sir, I have a question. How is the endospore protected from UV radiation?
The endospore is protected by some layer, and this layer is formed of some protein which are called small acid soluble spore protein. So they are preventing the infiltration of the UV ray into the endospore. The endospore is formed of different layers. The outermost layer is actually called the exosporium. This exosporium is a unique structure. This exosporium, you can see, is of different types. In Bacillus, different species you can see, it may be smooth, it may be thick-walled, it may be wavy, it may be showing some typical groove, it may be producing some typical projections. So this way, the different species of Bacillus can be recognized on the basis of the exosporium structure or exosporium layer of that particular bacteria. And a most important thing is this exosporium is having different components. It may have carbohydrate, it may have protein, it may have lipid. In case of protein, which is about 52%, there may be around 17 different amino acids found, and the key amino acids are cysteine, methionine, tyrosine or histidine. There may be the 20% amino or neutral polysaccharide, which is having rhamnose or glucose units. And for the lipid subunit, there may be mostly cardiolipin with fatty acids which are actually 16 or 18 carbon long. And apart from that, there may be some organic acid in the form of teichoic acid or in the form of dipicolinic acid, which provides stability to the wall of the endospore. The next layer after the exosporium is the spore coat. This spore coat is actually having hexose dipicolinic acid and provide resistance to heat. The next layer is the cortex. You can see this thick cortex, and this white zone is representing the actual peptidoglycan. And the cortex is followed by the core wall, and the core wall is actually protecting the inner part of the cell. And this core wall is definitely enclosing the DNA also. Apart from the DNA, inside the core there will be the calcium dipicolinate, there will be the small acid soluble protein protecting it from UV, as I have said, and thereby it gives a real hard structure which can survive for years together. You can see these are the different stages of endospore formation, where there will be definitely the spore developing, and then it will produce the different layers as I have already mentioned, and ultimately with favorable condition it will germinate. The method we actually offer is the Schaffer full tone staining method, where we are using a typical green stain which is malachite green and the normal safranin stain. So we are using a smear where we are staining it with malachite green and we are heating it on a particular water bath. And this particular steam will expand the cell wall so the malachite green can enter and the spore is stained. And then after destaining, we are applying the typical safranin stain, and what happens is the bacteria is staining red and the endospore stains green, and thereby it is clearly observable. And this is the actual slide of Bacillus cereus. You can see these are the green endospores which have been stained with malachite green. These are the different stages of actual endospore formation. We have shown it in actual photomicrograph, that is electron micrograph view, and we have also shown the different models. There will be the invagination of the wall. This is the septum formation producing the pre-spore or the forespore, and then gradually there will be the cortex which is let down, then the thickening of the cell wall. You can see in this photo also the spore is gradually taking its shape, and finally the spore is separating from the parent cell producing a distinct endospore. So these are the different stages of endospore formation starting from stage 0 to stage 8 or stage 7. Now coming to the important molecular mechanism, what actually takes place when the endospore formation occurs. This is a typical vegetative reproduction, or you can say reproduction by binary fission. The cell is dividing, and at the 0 stage, at the particular 0 stage, there will be a spore protein activated. And this spore may be spore 3D, which is actually identified as a 93 residue long protein. And this spore will give rise to or give way to sigma factors. And these sigma proteins or the sigma factors are regulating this endospore formation. And these are the different stages where you can see that the initial sigma is sigma in and sigma F. Or if it is sigma F in the small portion in the vegetative cell, it will be sigma E. And this particular sigma E and F is regulating the initial part of the cell division, where sigma is giving the membrane stability. And finally, it is the sigma F which is gradually getting modified to sigma G. So sigma G in the pre-spore and sigma K is in the vegetative cell. So the formation of sigma K outside and the sigma G inside will regulate the changes that will take place in the vegetative cell and endospore formation. By the time sigma G is active or sigma K is active outside the spore, the cortex has already been formed. And once the cortex is formed, the cell is now fully ready to take off. And thereby the endospore formation is marked by the expression of the cortex with the maturation of sigma K, and thereby this particular event is completed with the active participation of the sigma factors. So what we can see, in a particular bacterial cell, there may be different protein which is regulating the endospore formation, which is very nicely explained in this particular diagram. It is seen in Eupuloptium, where you can see that there are some sigma factors represented by this round structure. And these round sigma F, sigma E, you can see these are the two areas where they are active. And then there will be gradual activation of sigma K, and here there is activation of sigma G. And at the same time, this is the typical diamond shaped spore protein which are being activated. And at the same time, there are rectangular structures, and these rectangles are typically represented by another protein group. So all these taken together is regulating the endospore formation in a bacteria called Eupuloptium. Now, apart from a single spore, sometimes there may be more than one endospore produced. And this is actually observed in a bacteria called Metabacterium polyspora. And this bacteria is actually showing the initial bipolar division, producing the 4 spore in the 2 poles. And as a matter of fact, the 4 spore is not constant in number. The 4 spore increases in number, and thereby from 2 it will produce 4. And then these 4 cells or 4 endospores will be separating from the parent cell. So this particular phenomenon is called the multiple sporulation in bacteria. As I have already told you, the endospore is having a thick wall, and thereby it is helping the bacteria to survive during unfavorable condition. At the same time, it is protecting from different chemicals, different pH, different temperature, and in the same way, this particular endospore is also used as a biological weapon. Why? Because this endospore of, say, a pathogenic bacteria can be used to kill another person. Or sometimes the presence of endospore, as in Geobacillus, it can be used to see whether you have successfully sterilized a medium or not. If the endospore is surviving, then you must say that the medium is not properly sterilized. And in the same way, I have told you that there are different factors, the sigma factors, the other protein, the spore protein. All these factors indicate that there are some unique molecular biology network taking place. So by seeing this particular molecular biology, we can understand which protein is playing which role in a bacteria. Now coming to the destruction of endospore. How endospores can be destroyed? As I have told you, endospore can be destroyed by simple autoclaving. Autoclaving for 1 hour, so it can destroy the endospore. Or even you can also destroy it by sodium hypochlorite in a low concentration. And in the same way, if you apply heat, sometimes you apply heat, then they will be destroying some particular endospore with the parasporal body inside. So the endospore is totally getting destroyed. And you can see this is a Clostridium difficile endospore. After applying sonication, what happens is the exosporium is getting damaged. And this is another case where you are applying sonication and you can see that there is distinct damage in the Clostridium endospore. In the same way, there will be X-ray or gamma ray application to destroy endospore. But here you can see that the application of some bacterial toxin, that is the Alicyclobacillus toxin, will destroy the endospore fully.
Sir, I have a question. What will be the effect if a higher concentration of bleach is applied?
if the higher concentration of bleach or sodium hypochlorite is applied, then what happens is the bacterial cells will try to aggregate. So sometimes it so happens that because of this aggregation, the bleach cannot impregnate, so they might even survive. So a typical concentration should be applied which is suitable for impregnation. If it is not impregnating, then the cell will be alive and the spore will be germinating to produce a bacterial cell. Clear? Now we come to the last part, that is the endospore will survive till there is unfavorable condition, and then finally it will germinate. And it will germinate through specific areas or through specific stages. Their activation, that is by applying heat the endospore become active, then the inner part of the core will germinate out, and this outgrowth will come out by evagination, and the cell will actually come out as a new bacterial cell. So this is the endospore function. It will help the bacteria to survive during unfavorable condition. So can you tell me whether this endospore is a true spore or it is not a true spore?
It's not a true spore.
Absolutely right, because sometimes we see that we call it a spore, but here what happens is a single bacterial cell is coming out from that spore, so we should not say that it is a true asexual spore. But even then, because of its structure, we call it a spore. So in this particular lecture, what we have discussed is the different types of asexual reproduction, but here mainly we have discussed binary fission and endospore formation. We have discussed how they are produced, how they are controlled, and what benefit the bacterial cell is deriving from this endospore or binary fission. And I have also discussed how endospore is not a true asexual spore, but there are other methods of asexual reproduction. In the next lecture, I shall be discussing the different asexual mode of reproduction in bacteria and other prokaryotic organisms. Thank you.